Hello, and welcome to episode 135 of Things I've Learned from Barry Harris. And I thought today we would talk about this really pretty movement that we've been talking about over at Open Studio, over at the classes there, which if you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it because it's just a great place to learn and to get better from the privacy of your own home. It's really fantastic. This movement, it happens in a lot of tunes. It happens in, well, the tune we were working on was Honeysuckle Rose. It happens in the first couple of bars of the blues. It happens in I Got Rhythm, 5th and 6th bar, I think, of I Got Rhythm. But let's talk about it in F. And basically what the move is it's F6 to F7 to B flat 6 to B diminished. So a lot of times you'll hear, here's F6, here's F7, B flat 6, B diminished, back to F6. Or sometimes you'll hear something like F6 and then F with the third in the bass, like the A in the bass, and then B flat 6. So that's a very important move. So it's this. Or to be more precise, it's... That's basically what the move is. If you hear the bass player playing that, that's what the bass player is implying. So let's just talk about that move for a second. So the way that I look at that, and the way that Barry used to talk about it, is the first thing is F6. So let's take our 4 notes of F6. F, A, C, D. We'll change the D to E flat to make it F7. So now we got F6, F7. Now B flat 6 is just going to be B flat, D, F, G. Now, the difference between B flat 6 and B diminished is going to be 2 notes. The B flat's going to move to B. We're still going to keep the D. We're still going to keep the F. But now the G moves up to G sharp or A flat. So there's our diminished. So now, here's our full move. Here's the B flat 6, and now here's the B diminished. Now, what's pretty about learning this tune, learning this particular movement, is you should learn every inversion of this. Every single one. So for instance, if we take, here's F, F6, F7. Now we should know every inversion of that 6 to that F7. So here's F6 here from the 3rd. Now from the 3rd again. But that same note changes. The same D, every time you're going to get to the D, you change it to E flat instead. So here's from the 3rd again. Now here's from the 5th. And then here's from the 6th. Those are all pretty. You got to know all those. Same thing is true of the B flat 6. So let's say we take the B flat 6 from here. You could do it in any octave, but let's take it from the lower octave. So here's 1, 3, 5, 6, which again is B flat, D, F, G. And changing the B flat is going to change to B. The D and the F are going to stay the same, and then the G is going to move up to G sharp or A flat. So now let's do the next inversion of that, starting from the 3rd. So now we're starting with the D, F, G, B flat. So now the last 2 notes are going to change. That's pretty. Then we'll start on the 5th, and we'll say F, G, B flat, D. So again, we're going to change the F. Actually, the F is going to stay. We're going to change the G to G flat. And then we're still going to play the D on top. So here's this one. Really pretty move. Now it started from the 6th, starting from the G. And then again, we got to change the G, go up a half step to the G sharp. And the same thing, the B flat is going to move up a half step to B. So now you have this. That's a really pretty one. So now what's nice is you should be able to throw those into lines. That's the idea. Or at least use those as an idea, as a starting point for pretty ideas for that little spot. So again, like I said, if we were talking about the first bar of the blues, the first 2 bars of the blues, it's usually, well, at least the Barry Harris outline would be F7 up, B flat 7 up. But we could also do this movement because it's in there. That's the move. So we're going to try to do that. So you come up with all sorts of things. Here's B flat 6, maybe B flat 7 down, and then you do B flat 6 up. So you come up with all little pretty ways to work on this. So let's say if let's start from the beginning. Here's our F6, here's our F7 from the F. Now let's do a slick way that Barry used to do it is, since we started on F, we're going to start B flat 6 from the F. So here it is from the 5th of the B flat 6. So here's what it would sound like starting from the F. It's pretty stuff if you just did that. That's really pretty stuff. And that's just playing F6 to F7 to B flat 6 to B diminished. Now let's start from the 3rd. Same thing, only the one note changes. The D moves to E flat. Now, since we started on the 3rd of F, which is the A, the closest place that we want, or if we want, we can either go down to D. Let's go down to the D. So then we'll start the B flat from the 6th. So here's our F from the A. Now let's start the B flat 6 from the G. Sorry, not from the D. That's pretty. So let's see. Love that sound. So wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then really pretty stuff. F6 to F7. Now let's start from the 5th. Let's say start from the 5th of F6. So then we'll start from, I guess the next closest note from this would be the root. So we'll say really pretty stuff. But can you imagine starting your blues off like that? Since the bass player is starting the why can't we play that? Why can't we play that? That is pretty stuff. So sometimes just working on these little tiny little small movements is going to help you to develop so many different phrases. So if you think my phrasing, I want it kind of like, I want to think about that default movement and see how many pretty ways I can do that. Now we happen to be just going up. You know, these are all going up. But you could also do them down. So you could say, you could do one up, one down, and the same thing here, one up. It's really pretty. You could do all sorts of variations, all sorts of combinations. You could do one note at one, don't play the whole thing. You could say, that was just playing one note of the F6. Then I did come down to F7. And then I didn't really play much of the B flat 6. I just kind of started thinking about the B diminished, which is really pretty. And remember, when you think of B diminished, obviously you're thinking all the notes of B diminished, including the diminished, you know, the diminished scale you could think of also for that little spot. But think about that. If you have as your guideline F6 to F7 to B flat 6 to B diminished, think about how many millions of phrases you can come up with, and think about how many spots you can put them in. Like I said, it's in Honeysuckle Rose, it's in I Got Rhythm, it's in the blues, this movement. And if you take this movement and you say, okay, this is in the key of F, it's F6 to F7 to B flat 6 to B diminished. Then you have to think about, okay, that's the 1 chord to the 1 dominant to the 4 chord to the sharp 4 diminished. So if you think about it numerically, then you should be able to transpose it to any other key. So for instance, I Got Rhythm, it's in B flat. So then you have to think, okay, well the 1 chord is B flat 6, goes to B flat 7, Then it goes to E flat 6 to E diminished. That's the move. That would be the move in B flat. What if I said the move in C? Well, then it's going to be C6 to C7 to F6 to F sharp diminished. So that's a good way to do it. And once on guitar, obviously, if you do it in a couple of positions, like if we did it with F as the root, then we did it again as B flat as the root, and you really see the 6 to the 7, and then the 6 to that diminished, there's a lot of stuff you can find. A lot of stuff you could. Also true if you're playing chords. I was just talking to Thomas about this. We were saying, let's take F6 to F7. Now, most people will play these big chords. So they'll play, you know, here's a big F6. Maybe we'll do a tritone or something. But what's nice is to do what I call broken drop 2, what Thomas calls shell voicing. If I just took shell with the F on top and just moved the one note that moves. So if we started off with blues and said 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's a pretty move, and you should know it from every degree. That was from the third. So here's the shell from the broken drop 2 from the third. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a cool move to be able to just play those little things. And you know, when you see those on your instrument, you also can play. See, let's see. Look at that. I started off with this little broken drop 2 with a shell of F6. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty. What if I started with this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a pretty one too. How about the next one? Let's see. Let's see. That's pretty stuff. Just thinking about this. So movement is the thing that we really need to learn. And Barry was always very focused on movement. He used to say we have to learn, because obviously Coleman Hawkins told him, used to call it movement instead of chords. He would say movement. So this movement, the 1 chord to the 1 dominant to the 4 chord to the sharp 4 diminished, happens in so many spots. We should learn every little thing about it, as opposed to just having one line that covers it. Like, okay, here's the one thing that I play every time that happens, or here are the 2 things I play. We should have infinite amount of things we can play, because we should learn how to play movement, as opposed to just, you know, or as opposed to like just taking a Sonny Rollins or a Charlie Parker or Bud Powell phrase and then just saying, all right, well, when this happens, I'm going to insert this line. We don't want to do that. Or at least I don't want to do that. You can do that, but I don't want to do that. I would rather learn how to play the movement myself. But it's an interesting thing. And if you think about everything about music is just about that. It's about this chord going to this chord, or this going to this, which means it's about movement. Everything about music is about movement. So there's only a certain amount of places we're going to go. There are only a certain amount of movements. So if you spend time focused on the smaller things and keep working at them, I feel like everybody can be better, or can become much better players if we focus on these little smaller things. And Barry was a huge advocate of working on the small stuff. And he meant that not only like in terms of piano playing big chords, playing smaller chords, but also thinking small movement. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I'm sorry it's been a little while since we've gotten together, but hopefully I'll be making more frequently. So until next time, enjoy practicing your movements.